Tiffany, the others heard who was going to be here and they decided not to show.
I'm sorry?
No.
Wow. No, you're not.
I hear the phone ringing back there, so. There's Josh.
Our saving grace.
We waited for you, Josh. You're good.
Now we have a quorum.
We're good.
Sounds like we may be adding at least one more.
Linda and Connie, can you hear? Linda, Connie?
Doesn't sound good.
No. He's already had it, though. He didn't need to worry about it, you know.
Sounds almost.
He can be a carrier, but...
No.
Can you hear me?
Linda, Connie, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you. Barely.
I can't. I've got you on YouTube, but it's not coming through on the phone.
Connie and
Linda and Connie.
Oh, I'm sorry. Linda, what's the Connie?
Okay, we ready?
I haven't heard from anybody else. But
Indira?
All right, I think we've got a couple of our council members on the phone. We have 4 of us here in person, and so I suggest we go ahead and get started. I will say that I'm excited, and I hope that everybody else is, to see a sort of an update on this future forward. I know that Josh and I have listened to this presentation, but I think it's important that we share it with everybody and keep everybody up to date as to what's going on about the future of downtown. So let's move forward. Madam Pam, do you need to say anything?
I don't have anything to say. Aaron can do
All right,
the
we're going
intro.
to turn it over to Aaron. Let's get going.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, and the city's Development Services Department. The one and only presentation on your agenda this morning is for Future Forward. It was coined Future Forward about 6 months ago, and is the result of an endeavor to put forward a vision and action plan for downtown. It's been going on 15 years since something like this was done. It was time to really refresh the ideas, pull together existing plans that have been in the works for downtown, and put together a comprehensive vision. Several members of the council a couple of members of the council and staff are on the steering committee. Tiffany, with the partnership, we'll go through that in a minute. We worked together with the partnership. The partnership initiated this effort and brought together convened the steering committee and selected the consultant. Laura Kessel is here today representing RDG and that consultant team, and we'll go through the details of that plan. With that, I will turn it over to Tiffany Tauschek, who can talk a little bit more specifically about the partners initiative, the Greater Des Moines Partnerships Initiative, and then roll into the details of this plan.
Thanks, Erin. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council and team. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming in on a Monday morning to hear a little bit more about the Future Forward Vision Plan and Action Plan. So we started this journey in 2019. We paused the journey in 2020. Then in 2021, we really reset and re-engaged with this planning process for downtown. We set out for the downtown vision plan to be the most inclusive, community-driven plan that downtown has ever had. And I'm pleased to share with you today that we've had nearly 8,000 individuals that have participated in this plan and process. And what you're going to hear today is just a draft, the initial summary of that feedback and ongoing conversation that we've had with the community. This plan wouldn't have been possible, and going through this process wouldn't have been possible if not for our funders. So I want to thank City of Des Moines for your help and support from a funding perspective, but also Polk County, Catch Des Moines, Bravo Greater Des Moines, DART, MPO, Fuse DSM, Downtown Chamber, Operation Downtown, and the partnership. Those organizations came together to hire a consulting team, which was representative of local, regional, and national experts to help us truly define and better understand our unique opportunity as a community for short-term economic recovery and long-term economic vitality. So with that, we were led by a group of steering committee members as well as Future Forward Council members. I wanted to share that list with you today so you're aware of the leadership behind this vision plan and action plan. Of course, the mayor, Mayor County, thank you very much for your leadership, as well as Angela Connolly from Polk County and Terry Caldwell Johnson of Oak Ridge, and representing Capital Crossroads as well. Jay Christensen, obviously developer, Jen Carruthers from Capital City Pride, Catherine Kunert from Mid-American Energy, and Mary Sellers from United Way. In addition to the leadership team, we had a steering committee and Future Forward Council that was representative of more than 50 different government, business, nonprofit, and community organizations. So again, really driving to ensure that this was set up from the foundation and moving forward to be an inclusive, community-driven plan, because what we know is that this is everyone's downtown, and that downtown does not have boundaries. It really should be welcoming to all and inclusive of those neighborhoods surrounding downtown. So I'm pleased to share with you today the progress that we've made, along with Laura Kessel from RDG, but also want to ask of you, please, for your support and hopefully some buy-in on this plan. Also wanted to call out and thank City Council Member Mandelbaum for his support and involvement on the steering committee, as well as some city staff, including Scott Sanders, Matt Anderson, Aaron Nelson Douglas, of course, here today. Thanks, Aaron. And then our team worked closely with the economic development team from the city, as well as the planning and design division, to help us get to where we're at today with this initial summary and draft. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura Kessel with RDG Design. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tiffany, and thank you all for the time today to share this update, an initial summary draft. Again, our goal is to get input from you all before this is finalized, so this is a great opportunity. I am going to give a presentation for roughly 30 to 35 minutes about the overall recommendations of the plan, but then really want to turn it over to you all to understand what questions you have and what feedback you have about the draft recommendations that you're seeing today. We'll run through a little bit more background on the planning process and some of the input that we received from that community input of over 8,000 folks. Talk about the new vision statement for downtown. Talk about how past plans played into this effort as well. And then go over some of the plan recommendations in the form of goals, as well as a series of initiatives that we are recommending to move forward. And then wrap up with next steps, and then turn it over again to you all for discussion. In terms of process, we started as a consultant team on this effort last August, working closely with the steering committee and engaging the community. Again, we had an incredible, robust community input that had both in-person and online opportunities. Worked really hard to make a lot of those opportunities qualitative, really inviting people into the process, especially historically excluded groups, into that process. Today, we are working on the implementation strategies and polishing draft recommendations with the input from groups like yours. One note about the public engagement process, again, worked really hard to think about who are all of the stakeholders that need to weigh in on the future of our downtown. And when I say our downtown, it's really a big umbrella from an inclusivity standpoint. Tiffany mentioned the Future Forward Council, and I want to highlight that in particular. This group of 40 individuals were brought in early on with small group, focus group conversations, invited to special opportunities to view the emerging recommendations and input, and then also invited to recent meetings to to review the recommendations and provide direction on those as well. I think that's something that we feel really proud that we've been able to find a way to invite groups that typically haven't been as involved in previous processes. Some of the community input themes that I want to highlight, and I won't read all of these to you, but we did hear time and again, it was interesting how much there was a convergence of some of the different groups' feedback about the future of downtown. And a couple of key items to highlight is that downtown really needs to be inclusive, vibrant, and have choices for a variety of different elements of downtown, and that mobility and connectivity for all is absolutely critical. We heard often that downtown has done a wonderful job of creating some amazing destinations, but the connectivity between those destinations breaks down in some areas of downtown and to some of the surrounding neighborhoods as well. So how can we find ways to tie together the wonderful assets of downtown? And how do we also adapt? We know that the workforce downtown, the behaviors of the workforce have changed due to the pandemic. How do we need to adapt to that as well? Related to the workforce, we did also have a study that was commissioned by the partnership that was not a part of this project, but was associated with this project called the Workforce Trends and Occupancy Study. And this study surveyed over 5,000 employees of folks that are working downtown. And there were a couple of critical items related to downtown that really emerged from this study. One, not a surprise, the hybrid workforce really seems to be here to stay, at least if the workers have something to say about that. Folks really enjoy the ability to blend working from home with working from an office. Folks in this survey talked about the need for deep work, but they also mentioned that they value the office still for the socializing and collaborative work efforts. What's interesting is they value downtown for very similar reasons. They value downtown for the social, cultural, and recreational aspects, and they want downtown to grow in those areas. 84% of folks said that if downtown improved in those areas, they would use downtown more in the future. So there's really a synergy between what downtown workers are looking for as well as what people want to see in the future of their downtown. We then also looked at an aspirational vision statement for the future of downtown, working with the steering committee and the community to talk about, as we look out into the future, what describes the downtown of the future. And though it's always fun to wordsmith with many people, we're really proud to share the vision statement that emerged that really talks about the depths and the layers of downtown of the future. And that vision statement for downtown is that downtown DSM is the destination for inclusive opportunities and welcome surprises. And this statement, really, every one of those words is very intentional, especially the highlighted words that you see on the screen. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see that each of those highlighted words is further defined to really express the opportunities for downtown of the future. In addition, related to the vision statement, the community input led to a series of guiding principles or lenses that the community really wanted to see overlaid on any recommendations moving forward for downtown. Those include inclusivity, vibrancy, choice, sustainability, economic vitality, and wellness. The other component that we wanted to be sure we did not lose sight of is that there has been a tremendous amount of work related to downtown that has taken place over the last decade. So while there has not been an official downtown master plan completed for, as Aaron said, about 15 years, many of the projects that have been completed touch on downtown and are relevant to downtown. So our team worked closely with the steering committee and the community to identify what were some of those still relevant items that need to move forward and can be woven into the downtown plan. And what are some of the elements that are missing that we need to spend more time focusing on. So pulling in from that, we moved into establishing a series of 5 plan goals that are overarching for the future of downtown. These build upon those past plans as well as some of the current plans that are in motion for downtown. They build upon the community input and also respond to the new conditions of today. Those 5 goals are a welcoming urban neighborhood, inclusive arts and entertainment, rewarding market for development, a vibrant outdoor city, and connected and sustainable mobility. Each of these goals weaves in some of those past plan recommendations and lifts up those recommendations. So for example, connected and sustainable mobility references to great depth the 2017 Connect Downtown plan that was completed by the City of Des Moines, and thinks about how those can be woven into the future recommendations for downtown. In addition to those 5 overarching goals, we identified 6 initiatives, what we're calling the Future 6 initiatives, and these are a collection of kind of discrete projects that can be taken on and completed to work towards that vision for downtown Des Moines. So you see a messy diagram here, and it just starts to talk about, if you look at this diagram, we know that where do you start? So we've worked to organize these initiatives, which are the completion of the Green Ring, the Skywalks Reimagined, Inner Circle, Stadium District, Connected Corridors, and Strong Neighborhoods. And I'll walk you through what each one of those mean. Fundamentally, though, before we get into each initiative, again, we heard time and again that connectivity of our wonderful assets is something that is one of the bigger missing features of downtown today. So this is an abstract diagram, but it talks about how we can start to connect these existing and emerging assets and neighborhoods together. And that leads us to our first initiative, which is the Green Ring. One thing that, as we work to study the downtown and what's needed in the future, there has been an incredible investment in some of the outdoor recreational aspects in and around downtown. So you look at what's happened along the riverfronts and what is emerging with the Water Trails projects, the Papa John Sculpture Park and the Western Gateway, even the Capitol grounds on the east side. We think about how all of those start to tie together. There are a few key gaps or areas that need to be enhanced. So you can create a destination really and an experience as you're working your way through these different districts as either a resident, visitor, or a worker. Again, we heard time and again that outdoor cultural recreation is a really wonderful asset, but also something that can be improved for folks to want to enjoy downtown in the future. So we have one illustration of what this could look like, and this is on 15th Street, looking north towards the Papa John Sculpture Park. So to the south, we have the future Pro-Iowa Stadium, the Coleman Bridge to Grays Lake and over to Waterworks Park. So this is a link that could, though the detail of the design is not worked out, the illustration shows how this could be a really wonderful greenway link for bikes and pedestrians. And all the way to the north, we think about how this connects to the hospital, to Sherman Hill, to Oak Ridge, even all the way to Drake and Northwest Des Moines. The next initiative is called the Skywalks Reimagined. And as we think about the Skywalks, this is a topic of, has been a topic of great debate. We know that the Skywalks serve a functional purpose for downtown, that they're highly integrated into the buildings, but that they are somewhat disorienting to folks. So we have, and there are areas that don't necessarily represent us well as a community as we have visitors coming to and through the Skywalks. So a couple of key recommendations in this area. One is to improve the wayfinding by looking at a transit model of color-coded lines for the different routes. But the second is to think about how 2 key lines of the Skywalk could be reimagined as a linear destination. This was inspired in part by a precedent project, the New York City High Line, an abandoned elevated railway that has been turned into a true destination and linear park for the city of New York City. So looking at that for our community, we looked at 2 key routes, one that connects the event center on the north down to Capitol Square, and then an east-west route that connects some critical destinations as well, thinking that some of these can be themed for different celebrating different aspects of downtown. So that could be celebrating our history, the arts community, sports, depending on the section. And just one draft rendering of this to illustrate this idea. You see an existing skywalk and the opportunity, perhaps in an arts-themed section of the skywalk, to create an interactive installation that becomes a destination for folks. The next initiative is the Inner Circle, and this initiative looks at I guess you could say square or circle of connections surrounding the core of downtown, largely in areas with many underused parking areas, as well as public right-of-ways that may not have the best pedestrian or bicycle amenities today, and looks at how we could reuse some of those parking lots, as well as rethink some of the right-of-ways to create a wonderful connection between some of these destinations. And this is just one example here at Keogh Way. You can see Keogh Way going east-west through this route, and then 9th Street and 8th Street as they come together with Keogh Way. So this vision looks for a reorganization of the traffic patterns, as well as the opportunity to make improvements for pedestrian ways, for opportunity for private redevelopment. We know that some of these parking lots are not needed, potentially based on the pandemic influences of workforce behaviors. So there's an opportunity for some of these areas to redevelop and create pockets for mixed use and residential uses. The next initiative is the Stadium District. This area south of MLK Junior Parkway looks at how do we tie together some of the emerging and existing destinations, the Pro Iowa Stadium and Global Plaza with Principal Park. Think about some of the areas that are opportunities for redevelopment, some of the areas that are kind of east of 9th Street, a lot of one-story office buildings and surface parking lots. And how do we also tie together from a vehicular, bike, and pedestrian route? And in particular, what you see represented by the blue line is the idea that Tuttle Street may be able to someday be a connection that ties together those two destinations in a multimodal way. And then an illustration rendering of that with Principal Park in the foreground, and a vision for how, again, that could be tied together from a multimodal perspective as well as a redevelopment perspective to create a cohesive district. Our fifth initiative is the Connected Corridors Initiative. And this vision really looks at how do we create complete streets that tie in and out of downtown and create a welcoming experience for downtown. And so that can include streets like Keogh Way. It can also include some of the bridges that go into our neighborhoods around the perimeter of downtown. So this is one example of a potential project that's being recommended, which is the 9th Street Bridge. So if you were taking this picture, the DMACC Urban Campus would be to your north, behind you, looking to the south to downtown. This is a bridge that does not have any interstate access, so it really creates a wonderful opportunity to make a much more welcoming experience and multimodal experience into downtown. And then finally, the last initiative, but not the least, is the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative. And this initiative recognizes that downtown should not be a walled experience. We don't have just downtown and then, barriers to our adjacent neighborhoods, but we really want to make the most and support those neighborhoods that are in those transitional areas on the edges of downtown through programs that help with affordable home ownership, through the maintenance and improvements of the public realm and the character nodes of some of these neighborhoods. And just one example from that is thinking about the community character nodes that are existing in these neighborhoods. This is at the intersection of East 9th Street and Fremont Street in the Capitol Park neighborhood, and looks at an area that has somewhat underused old commercial buildings, and looking at programs that could potentially improve that, as well as small public improvements that allow for this area to really thrive and be a center for that neighborhood. So that was a whirlwind of the recommendations. Wrapping up now, I want to turn it over to you. But before I do that, in terms of next steps, where we're at, we have a draft plan document underway that's working its way through stakeholder reviews, but opportunities are still available to make adjustments to that document. And again, we're working through some of those implementation conversations and priorities. So with that, open it up to discussions or questions.
Let's go ahead and, anybody have any questions, thoughts?
Sure, if you could go back just like maybe 3 slides that showed some of the Graziano corner and, yeah, at the upper portion of the screen, there's a bullseye, but it doesn't identify what that neighborhood is.
Yeah, I believe, I apologize, I did not create that particular graphic, but I believe that's on Forest Avenue.
And Sixth.
6th.
Forest and 6th, okay. So that's part of this 6th Avenue corridor.
Right, and
In
so
that
it's
neighborhood.
recognizing that we want to continue to support those efforts that have
Okay.
been evolving as well.
And one of the planning sessions that I attended, Marty Schukart from RDG Omaha was in that, and he was trying to figure out a way to reuse some of our viaducts, which, gosh, Pam, you can maybe help with this, is the 9th Street Viaduct scheduled to be rebuilt or
No, there's no plans to rebuild the viaducts. We have a rehabilitation project. a repair
rehabilitation?
project.
Okay.
Pretty
Anyway,
minor, though.
Yeah, minor, okay.
fairly
Well, so Marty was trying to figure out a way to maybe turn that into a destination area of some sort. Did that not get any traction or?
What we are recommending in the plan is that we do explore the potential for the removal of those viaducts to make those at grade, not to make them into necessarily a destination. But they do create, I encourage you to go down, if you haven't recently, go down and walk that area. They do create pretty significant barriers. And there's a lot of surface parking on either side of MLK below those and around those. So it is an opportunity, probably on the longer term side of this plan, to envision something new as that area could infill and become a part of the downtown neighborhood and experience. Does that answer your question?
Right, I mean, I think he was trying to think of something like a Highline experience or just, again, a gathering area.
I'd be happy to confirm that with you and
Okay.
can get back to you. But I don't believe, that's not a recommendation that has moved
Okay.
forward in the plan.
But I'd just share, I mean, since I've had an opportunity to be involved, I mean, I've provided various pieces of input along the way, but, I mean, I just wanted to thank the folks who've done work on this. You know, with a plan like this, it's meant to be very big picture and address a lot of different aspects of our downtown. And the success of this is going to depend on folks working at implementing various pieces of it and taking ownership of various pieces of it. Some of it, it's going to require public-private partnerships. Some of it's going to require, I think, leadership from the council, particularly when we talk about the connectivity and integrating our neighborhoods into our downtown. I mean, I think that's something that we've had a lot of conversations about as a council, and this provides us maybe some roadmap in areas consistent with what we're already doing that we can focus on and have some success there. But I appreciate all of the work that the consultant team, that the partnership, that the full range of stakeholders put into this. And there's a lot of good stuff there that we can pull out and use going forward. So just wanted to provide that piece of context as folks are mulling this over and thinking about their feedback.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thoughts?
Hey, Frank, I don't know if you guys can.
Go ahead.
I just want to, the plan looks great too. I think the part I like the best is how it's incorporating the neighborhoods around downtown. And we'll be out, going further out into the neighborhoods. So I appreciate the work and think it looks like a good start on re-envisioning.
Thank you. Anything else? I'll give my 2 bits here. It has been an interesting journey that we've all taken for the last number of decades. Looking at downtown that used to be the shopping center for Iowa. And I mean, we had over 200 stores in downtown Des Moines. And obviously, as we're talking about the way people are changing and rethinking how they work and where they work and all that sort of thing, and whether it's going to be accepted full-time all the time virtually, or whether or not in-person teamwork and team building is still a good idea. But it's been interesting to watch the evolution as a number of folks, I remember working through Plan and Zone and through Downtown Des Moines Inc. and trying to figure out what is the key that keeps people downtown. We had an awful lot of people working downtown, but with the evolution of shopping centers and all that sort of thing, they'd come down, they'd work, they'd get in their car and they'd go back home, and they didn't shop downtown as much as they used to, or quite frankly now, for the same purposes, not at all. I mean, the department stores are gone, and an awful lot of the retailers are gone. But I think the element that really has helped change downtown into a deviation from strictly just a working area is the housing. We saw, what was it, 20 years ago, we had about 1,700 people living between the Capitol and Meredith and the river and 235. Now we got about 17,000 of them. And that helps not only attract restaurants and entertainment venues and all those kinds of things into the downtown, but it keeps them vital. Not just, to start it up as a whim, but keep going. And now we're starting, especially in the East Village, to see the retail come back. Now, destination retailers, specialty retailers, and the idea of connecting, as Carl had you pull back up the dots of these neighborhoods, connecting those neighborhoods to that opportunity as well in safe, multimodal kind of ways. And then I know Josh has been working on the transit and trying to make sure that we can get good access for DART downtown and to keep the downtown buses circulating to move people around is certainly helpful as well. And I think that revisioning and rethinking not only what we were, but where we are today and what the future looks like, this is an exciting opportunity for all of us to put our thoughts into it. And I want to thank everybody for working on it, and let's keep working on it and keep envisioning how Des Moines grows. We have done an awful lot as a council and our Parks Department and our full city staff working on improving neighborhoods and making Des Moines a great place to live and work, but the idea of connecting those neighborhoods with improved parks. I mean, we got 75 parks now, and that we need on occasion to even upgrade and improve, but connecting those people also to this downtown area is important, but also have improve those nodes out in the neighborhoods so that they have some of those necessities of life and places to shop and places to do other things. Because we're a total community. We're all working together. We're trying to connect together. And let's keep up the great work and look forward to further updates and further planning and further opportunities. I will say, as I remember when we started this, I related to some of the early planners. I remember back in the 80s when some people presented an idea that the future of downtowns was to actually, the idea was to tear down everything between 9th Street and Meredith, and from Ingersoll down to essentially what we call ML King, and we would re-envision it like, sort of one of those streets out in an area where, you put a building in the middle of a block and you park all the way around it, and then you move to the next one and you do that again and again, and it didn't even consider multimodal connectivity and people walking and biking or doing anything other than driving a car to where they are. So I think part of the beauty of downtown is that people can live here, they can work here, and they can get to and from their destinations and their workplaces if they live downtown without a car, that they can move around and they can do those sorts of things. And of course, quite frankly, at the moment, it's an affordability issue too, because I've read a lot of work that would tell people that if you have to travel 20 minutes from where you live to where you work, and then turn around and travel 20 minutes the other way, your probable auto single occupant vehicle transportation costs will be about as much as your home. And so it, and especially with fuel being what it is today, that might even exceed some of those numbers. But let's all work together and plan for a stronger, better Des Moines. Appreciate all the work that you guys have done. And with that, unless anybody has anything else, we'll let you guys get your places at work. Thanks for coming. This meeting's adjourned. We'll see everybody that's interested tonight. We've got a city council meeting. I know everybody gets excited about that. And so, either tune in or come on down and enjoy and watch the work that we do. Thank you.